The University of North Alabama has been educating students in the music and entertainment industry since 1975. One of the first programs of its kind in the country, and the first in the state of Alabama. We've got a lot to be proud of as we celebrate the program's 50th anniversary. We want to share some of the alumni and their UNA stories.
My favorite part of the music industry was teaching those classes and seeing those students. And I mean, it was quite an experience. Hi, I'm Terry Woodford, and this is my UNA story. So I'd had experience in publishing at Muscle Sound, and then we started our own publishing company. I had experience in a recording studio, being an engineer over at Muscle Sound and at Widget, and I had experience in producing records and leasing records, and of course songwriting and music publishing. So I'm getting the kind of overall feeling up to this point of what the music business is all about. But in 1975, I saw students, not even students, young people, right, that were creative, potentially good songwriters, good singers, get taken advantage of in the music industry. There's a lot of bad actors in the music industry that are motivated by fame, money, and ego. And these people can justify almost any kind of behavior to get what they want. And so how do you protect people who are really talented, you know, and how do you teach them the ins and outs of the music industry? And I'd heard about Henry Ramersa, and he was teaching a class in Nashville, and he worked for the Naris Institute. And the Naris Institute was partially funded by the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, but not totally. And so he had the heart for trying to help schools to put a music business class in their schools and stuff. And so I gave him a call and said, hey, we've got a university here. You think that's a possibility to have a 4-year degree program? And he liked the idea, and he came down, and I think he met with Dr. McArthur and maybe Dr. Simpson, and they said, well, would you put together the classes, the courses? And I thought, if I can take 4 classes and cover the whole music business with those 4 classes, and then have what they called a practicum back then, which was really an internship, that would be something that could really be beneficial to young people who wanted to go into the music industry. So I chose 4 classes. One was music publishing and songwriting, which I felt was the most important, record production, recording studio techniques, and the record company. And then the practicum or the internship would be depending on what the student's interest was or what he thought it was or she thought it was at the time. The way I looked at the courses is I said, okay, I want to make this like it really is, you know. I want this music songwriting course and music publishing course. I want these students to experience the exact things you're going to experience if you do that as a career, right? And so I taught them all these things I'd learned, right, about songs. This, you know, the title being important, on. And then we talked about publishing, and we talked about copyrights, and we talked about issuing licenses. And the other thing I let them do is use the studio. We had no facilities back then whatsoever. We had nothing. We had no office here, let alone a recording studio and all the stuff you've got. It's impressive. And so we opened up the recording studio and let them come in and do their demo. They played on it because they're all musicians, right? We taught them how to engineer it, and they got to be doing the engineering. They did little contracts, although they didn't have to pay themselves. But they went through the whole thing, just like you would record a demo if you're the publisher in the studio. Ironically enough, there were people in those groups like Walt Aldridge, big hits, eventually became big hit songwriters. And the record company class, now there was one that was really interesting because we could talk about payola. We could talk about what it was like to manufacture vinyl records. We could talk about the A&R department, what their job was, how you got artists signed, independent promotion for that record labels used, and their own in-house record promotion. And so that was a big area to cover, was the record labels themselves. And Muscle Sound was cooperative, Fame was cooperative. And they'd ask the artist, do you want to go speak to students? And you know what's interesting? Keep in mind, there isn't any other schools like this. it was fun for them to come and talk to students, you know, because it wasn't like they're going to be, you know, it's not like they're all fans out there. It's going to bug them and stuff. They were talking, they were teaching, they were wanting to share their experiences in the music business, you know. And then the music business people like ASCAP and BMI and booking agencies, people like that, you could book them to come in. And they were more than willing, you know, to do that. I mean, this is a place where they can hit a lot of students, people wanting to be in the music business. And if you're with ASCAP, one of our graduates, you know, was the vice president of ASCAP, John Briggs. And so he told me he was on the road most of the year, all over the country, meeting with, going to hear groups, trying to get them to sign up with ASCAP. Well, here ASCAP and BMI and CSAC could come in, and here's 60, 80 students who may be songwriters, you know, and a lot of them did turn out to be hit songwriters. It's really true of people in the arts in general, not just music. They don't want to know about business. You know, I'm an artist. I don't want to know about that. I don't even want to care about that, right? Except when they got hits and found out somebody had ripped them off for all the money. So it was really important that whether you do the business aspect, you need to know enough about it to know whether somebody's doing you right. That's why these classes, and that's why this program will always be important, because there's people out there that are talented who need that help. They need that guidance. They need to know what's for real. And it's like, if you've got a kid that is really talented, they need to come to a place like this, a school like this, and they'll find out real quick whether they're real talented or not. And then they'll find out, if I am, here's what I should do and here's what I shouldn't do.